Good morning, everyone. Good morning. This is just your 5-minute warning. Make your way to your seats. We'll start the program in 5 minutes. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning. If we could all take our seats, we'll get started. All right, again, good morning, everyone. I'm Rick Kessler, publisher and executive editor of RVBusiness, and I'll serve as your host and MC. On behalf of RVBusiness, the organizing committee and event coordinator BJ Thompson, welcome to the 2025 RV Industry Power Breakfast. Let me start off by saying we heard all of your feedback from last year. You wanted another hour added on to this. It might be hard to believe, but this is the 13th Power Breakfast. With the exception of COVID, we've had these 13 years in a row. I believe attendance, BJ told me last night, was about 250 people for that first one. This year, I mean, look around the room, we have almost 1,300 people. Including a who's who of civic and government leaders, too numerous to mention by name, but rest assured, all of your attendance is appreciated. Before we go on, please let me recognize the sponsors of the 2025 Power Breakfast: Airxcel, Cummins, Dometic, Forest River, KOA, RV Dealers Association and the RV Industry Association, Spartan RV Chassis, Thor Industries, Wells Fargo, and Winnebago Industries. A quick note for you sponsors, at the end of this program this morning, please stick around. We want to have you all come up to the stage for a quick photo. I'll remind you again later. In addition to those sponsors, we have over 75 companies, the names of which may be found in your program, who have supported this event as a table sponsor. Your support to everyone is greatly appreciated. And again, thank you and welcome. We will begin the program. So here we are at the start of the second quarter of what more and more is looking to be a challenging year for us. And I think it's safe to say that only a few months ago, we were all expecting something very different than what we're facing now. However, nonstop headlines coming from Washington, dominated by the drama of the on-again, off-again tariffs, have chipped away at consumer confidence. Of course, we all hope cooler heads will prevail and it will all lead to a favorable outcome, but until then, we must navigate the uncertainty that lies in front of us. I'm certain we'll hear more about that from Peter Marisi later on, but let me say this, it's not all doom and gloom. There are signs that better times are ahead. Shipments are up nearly 14% through the first quarter, and over 11 million new households have camped in 2024 compared to just 5 years ago. 11 million. And outdoor recreation in general, and RVing in particular, continue to resonate with the public, thanks in large part to the outreach of Go RVing and others. Yes, times are tough, but we will get through this. We always do, and we always will. We are just about ready to bring on the first of the morning speakers, but please allow me to make just a few quick announcements. First, we at RVBusiness will once again launch the Top 50 Dealer Awards program, so in the coming weeks, we will be reaching out to many of you in this room, asking for you to nominate those North American RV dealers deemed to be the best for the outstanding customer service, operational innovation, charitable outreach, and general excellence in overall business practices. I thank you in advance for helping us recognize those RV dealers who make our industry better. Second, I'm sure as you noticed as you came in, we have Gwen Sullivan and Jenna Bernick here for representing Care Camps Foundation, and Pete McCown and Brian Cook are here from the Community Foundation of Elkhart County. Please stop and talk with them to discover how you can help support their respective missions. Third, at the back of the entrance as you came in, we have gift bags filled with giveaway items from our sponsors for you to take home with you. It is a first come, first served basis, so no fighting. Our first guest, thank you. And now, without further delay, let's begin the program. I get all nervous when I go off script, and that's just not always a good thing ever. All right, our first guest is no stranger to the Power Breakfast, and we are fortunate to have him here again, a tireless public servant and the #1 cheerleader for the city of Elkhart. Please join me in welcoming Elkhart Mayor Roberson to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you. I get nervous when I get off script, too. Good morning, everyone. And I get nervous when I go off script, too. So I'll try to stay on script, but it's kind of difficult as well. So I always stay in a state of nervousness. But while I'm the mayor of Elkhart, I'm much more than that. In relationship to this community and in relationship to this industry, I cannot extract the symbiotic nature of it. And I had just recently an opportunity to revisit that, which was yesterday morning. I happened to be interviewed by the Discovery Channel's RVIA. I had to think about it. I said, yeah, it's like, are we there yet, right? It took me a minute, but I got it. So RVIA, it came to my office, or they came to Elkhart, and actually they may still be here, and they are? Oh, okay, cool. They're here? They're somewhere here? All right, Patrice and Greg, I don't know where you are, but they set me down and they asked me what's special about Elkhart and what's special about this industry. And I went back to think about the symbiotic nature that we have as an industry, and obviously the resilience. And we always talk about resilience. As a matter of fact, I did an interview outside just a minute ago, and I was asked, well, you know, with all of the forecasts that are going on around the country, there probably shouldn't be anyone here. Why are there so many people here? And I said, well, you just don't understand who we are. So the resilient side are things that we understand and we get up and do it every day. But the symbiotic nature of what we represent is so important to why we're so resilient. I can't go anywhere in Elkhart and see a landmark or something that creates quality of place, quality of life in our city without thinking about some of the legends that have walked across maybe this stage. I think the breakfast has been no more than, 11, 12 years or something of that nature, but started to do their craft, build, innovate, be entrepreneurs, make our city and our area the entrepreneurial capital of, I think, the United States, but I'm biased. But we know what we do here, and we do it every day. And when I look at our Civic Plaza, I think about our DCO. When I look at the Aquatic Center, which is a world-class aquatic center, I think about the late Pete Legal. When I look at areas within our non-for-profit community that makes us able to serve everyone in Elkhart, I think about Bill Richardson. Now, I know that there are others that do wonderful things in the city of Elkhart. I said those three names. I had personal relationships with them. And it's interesting how they had personal relationships with the city of Elkhart and obviously with this industry. I worked for Coachman back, I think it was in the early 2000s. I wasn't a great salesman. I was pretty good, though. I had some of the best of times. Matter of fact, I won a trip to Puerto Vallarta, and I think that's where my last daughter came from. So my wife and I really appreciated that trip. But But when I worked for Coachman, I started when Tom Corson was just retiring, and Claire Skinner was on her way to being there and leading that company. But Tom told me one day, and it's something that I take today, and it's a thread that I pull through the course of this symbolism and as well as the way that we're so resilient. He said to me, we were walking in Dallas one time, and he was such a humble guy. And you could go into a dealership, and I had Michigan. I remember going into Hills RV in Detroit. And I went into the service center, and a tech that was up underneath an RV that has been working there for about 15, 20 years. He came out, and they introduced me to him. And he said, "How's Tom?" I mean, I don't talk to Tom every day. And he said, "Well, you tell him Bert said hello." And so when I was walking at a sales meeting, I happened to repeat that to him. And it just so happened I was with him. And I said, it was amazing that this guy who probably he loved what he did, and I guess he did what he loved, but I just didn't understand why that relationship was that way. And I mentioned Bert, and he mentioned Bert's last name. Tom did. Mr. Corson did. Bert's last name, his kids, his family. And I said, whoa. And he said, you know something, Rod? He said, things don't always happen in the right way, but you can always do the right thing. And I thought about that. You don't always do things right, but you can always do the right thing. I kept that with me. I used that with my staff. I realized that we're in an imperfect world, but we work every day to make it that way. But I understood what Tom meant because Coachman had the best service in the industry. So we knew something may rattle free, but we always knew we could cover it. And it was important for him to be able to cover it. And when I think about what I do every day and what you do every day and the way that Elkhart works together with this RV industry, I think about that all the time. That's why we're resilient. That's why no matter what comes at us, we'll get through it. That's why people are packed in here today. It's because we realize that what we do right now, every day, is what's going to get us to the success of the future. In Elkhart, as mayor, I'm going to continue to keep my head down, continue to work through the challenges that we're faced with, and I know that some of the things that I see that bring people to Elkhart that was actually represented by people like you, I know there'll be more of them. And I know people will be glad to be in this breakfast every year, no matter whether or not we're banging it out or we're waiting for we're calling the next dealer to get another order on the yard. But we do what we do, and it's so important to me. I grew up here. It fits, and I know that there are others in this community that feel the same way. So I'm so proud to be with you as you go through what you go through, because I'm doing it as well, and Elkhart is better for it. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks so much for being in Elkhart, and thank you, RV There Yet. You got me pumped up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Puerto Vallarta, huh? Our next presenter is Jessica Wall-Turner. She's the president of the Outdoor Recreation Roundtable, America's leading coalition of outdoor recreation associations and organizations. Under her leadership, ORR has connected all segments of the outdoor recreation economy to pass historical legislation like the Great American Outdoors Act and achieve millions of dollars in funding for public lands, waters, and rural gateway communities. Please join me in welcoming Jessica Wall-Turner to the Power Breakfast stage.
Thank you for having me here today. DC meetings start a little later, I think 9:30. They're a little older than you are, so I'm not used to the 6:15 call time. So thank you for bearing with me. Thanks for the introduction. And ORR is the leading national coalition of over 40 national outdoor recreation trade associations that cover the entire spectrum of outdoor recreation and about 110,000 American businesses. So for 6 years now, we've brought together RVers, boaters, skiers, sportsmen, biker, climbers, snowmobilers, hikers, concessionaires, and more around the key areas that we all agree on, the key areas that align us: better access, infrastructure, and business certainty for today and into the future for our businesses. This is our common denominator, and this is our focus on growing the outdoor recreation economy instead of fighting over the slices of it. We want that bigger pie for all. So this quote here, I'll read it, you can read it, but demand for overnight accommodations at public parks is far greater than the supply. The demand is surging. Americans are seeking the outdoors as never before, and it's only a foretaste of what's to come. Not only will there be many more people, they will want to do more, they'll have more money to do it with. This could be from today, or this could be from the Review Commission in 1962. And this just shows that outdoor recreation has been growing for quite some time. It's been a part of the American livelihoods for generations. But only recently have we come together to harness that collective power and really see what we're made of in Washington, D.C. And it's helpful for us to think about this sector as really a mile wide. It's made up of public, private, nonprofit segments that really help with our diversity and our breadth. And unlike other industries, we're truly in every corner of the country. We're made up of mostly medium-sized businesses, mostly entrepreneur businesses, mom and pop retailers, outfitters, guides, in every corner in every state. So hopefully you've heard these numbers before. If not, this will be maybe a shock to you, and I'll try to put them into perspective. But together, we are a $1.2 trillion industry, and this is according to the U.S. Department of Commerce. This is not industry data. This is commerce data. This is how they compare and contrast other industries. It's how they measure GDP. We are responsible for 5 million jobs a year, and we account for 3.3% of all U.S. employees. So that's 3 people in every room of 100 are within the outdoor recreation economy sector. It's my favorite slide here because this puts it into perspective, these huge numbers. We are bigger than agriculture, extraction, and utilities. And when you think about the power that those industries have, we are bigger than those when we come together. Unsurprisingly, in Indiana, these are Indiana numbers, a vibrant outdoor recreation economy exists here, responsible for $15.7 billion in GDP and over 105,000 employees just in this sector alone. So of course, RVing is the biggest contributor, and because of this sector and you all, Indiana is actually the 12th largest recreation economy in the country. You're up there with Colorado and Utah, Wyoming, Maine, Vermont, Alaska, these really iconic recreation states. Indiana is in that top percentile with all of those. And recreation here grew an average of 7.2% annually from 2012 to 2023, making it actually the 5th fastest growing recreation economy in the entire country. In the state, we are also recreation bigger than agriculture and utilities combined, so contributing more to GDP than those industries combined. Real growth for both the RVing and the camping segments since 2012 has been completely off the charts. This is national. Much of that growth happened during COVID, but also leading up to and coming out of, there's been growth in those sectors. So as you can see from these charts and from the data that I just showed, we've had more recreationists over the past decade, but there are some headwinds, and we talked about some of those earlier, but industry participation reports show that recreationists are more casual, with fewer of them returning to lifelong interests and buying all the gear and equipment. They're going out, they're renting something, they're having an experience, they're putting on Instagram, and then they're maybe not doing something outside for another year. So we're seeing more people, but with less experiences, and they're buying less product. We also see that visitation is increasing at our national parks and public lands, but we've had decades of decline in funding and staffing on our public lands, and this is even prior to the more recent 2025 budget cuts and staffing cuts. And then, of course, tariffs have recently rocked our industry in a way I don't think we could have imagined just a few months ago. So this is why it's so important that we've come together with a collective and unified voice to influence some major shifts in the national dialogue. The REC Act, about 7 years ago, for the first time ever quantified the outdoor recreation economy as a unique sector of the national economy, and that's the data that you see today. Every year we fight to get that funded so that we can get our annual numbers, our national and state data. The Great American Outdoors Act, a $15 billion investment in recreation and conservation, arguably the largest investment in the past 100 years has happened. And now that's up for reauthorization, so I hope you'll all work with us on that. And even smaller things like the Commerce Economic Development Agency just recently passed a law where outdoor recreation can tap into the billions in economic development dollars. That's for campgrounds, marinas, planning, workforce. And then, of course, we had the Explore Act. And if you haven't heard about the Explore Act, you know, my favorite bill that I've ever worked on, RVIA, RVDA, all of the groups that you work with were so instrumental in this. And it really was landmark legislation. It does three things that I think are really important for our industry. One, it sets a new precedent. It sets a precedent that we are a national priority, that ensuring access and more opportunities and greater support for Americans to get outside is something that we can all agree on. I mentioned that we're bigger than agriculture and energy, and for the first time, we had our own legislative vehicle that moved on its own. We didn't wait for an energy package or an omnibus or permitting bill. We moved this bill entirely on our own. People in this room helped that happen. And so we're excited that maybe every few years we can get a bill like this. It also brought us together. So the passage of Explore represents congressional champions that we've garnered, industry leaders, over 310 American businesses and organizations signed on, and the outdoor enthusiasts nationwide who came to the table understanding the power of the outdoors, not just to drive economic growth, but truly to improve public health and enhance their quality of life. And my favorite stat is it was passed by unanimous consent. So that means every single member of Congress allowed this to pass. And that's usually left for renaming post offices or moving sidewalks. I think this is, and no one's challenged me on it, but I think this is the longest bill to ever pass by unanimous consent. And we did that, the recreation industry did that. And then third, it does a lot. It's policy dense. There's something in here for everyone, no matter what your activity. But I think for this community in particular, we're going to see over the coming years as this is implemented, more campground modernization opportunities, more public-private partnership opportunities, investments in gateway communities, electronic passes to our public lands, broadband in our public lands, and better visitation data. So managers can manage the land better. We can have better information for our business needs. And Secretary Burgum, the new Secretary of the Department of Interior, and the Trump administration, he attended our Explore celebration as his first public event. Celebrating the bill, excited to work on it. So we're working with him and the Chief of the U.S. Forest Service on implementation now, and I hope that it will be prioritized. So we've remained effective even during an international pandemic and partisan political environment in D.C. because we as the outdoor recreation industry lead with economics. When you come, the leaders in the room that have come to our National Outdoor Executive Forum, which is shown here, that come to RVIA's Move America Week, you are the embodiment of job creation, of quality of life, and of lifelong careers. And as a White House leader put it at our celebration here, this is the most bipartisan room you will ever be in when you're with the recreation economy, and we're really proud of that. We're also proud that our impact is spread throughout the country. So you can see that most of RV manufacturing might take place in Indiana, but the dealers, technicians, campground operators, gas stations that RVers use are all over the country. And so this is just one segment of the recreation economy, and you can see how your impact is across every state and in every community. And most every policymaker has a deep connection to the outdoors. They have a place or experience with their kids or their parents or their grandparents that we can tap into. And lastly, we are constantly thinking about how to get more people outside, no matter who they are, where they live. And with that value as our North Star, we will work with anyone. And that allows us to rise above the partisan dialogue or not get caught up in the trailhead fights that I think a lot of our members would like us to engage in. And so our message is clear. If you want to get more people outside, we will work with you. We do that through the policy I just showed, but also our economic development work. I cannot stress enough the change that's happened since COVID about recreation as a rural economic development tool. We have toolkits, now we have funding. We work with National Association of Counties, of the governors, and they're coming to us saying, how do we build thriving recreation economies across the country? Because we know they're resilient, we know they're recruitment and retention holders, and we know this is healthy, this is good for Americans. Our grants have also helped rural communities envision, plan, and execute on authentic recreation economies. And of course, our workforce and Together Outdoors work is dedicated to drawing more young people to the sector, educating Americans about the careers, skill sets needed for technical work in sectors across the outdoor recreation economy, and breaking down the real stereotypes about jobs within our industry to showcase the lifelong career paths that we all know exist. So to round out our work, we work at the state level pretty deeply. We've created 24 offices of outdoor recreation in states across the country, from Wyoming to Maine, Colorado to Tennessee, and I can't think of better states than Indiana and Iowa to be perhaps the 25th, given the recreation industry's impact. So ask your leaders to support this effort. And in closing, I think as our industry remains focused daily, as we should, on the near-term challenges of tariffs, of perceived and real impacts from workforce shortages, potential public land sell-off, we also remain dedicated to envisioning the future. And our next National Outdoor Executive Forum will take place in 2026 with a really interesting lens. We're connecting for the first time healthcare leaders and pharmaceutical CEOs to outdoor industry CEOs to tap in and move the needle on outdoor recreation as a health, mental and physical health, preventative measure, outcome, and prescription. And this is really the next frontier, I think, to getting more people outside. So we also approach the 250th anniversary of America next year in 2026, and I can't think of a better way for Americans to celebrate that than with our outdoor heritage, and I hope you'll all think about that as you're gearing up for 2026 marketing and events. I look forward to continuing our work together with the amazing team at RVIA, RVDA, and all of you, and to ensure that outdoor recreation is no longer a nice to have, it's not anymore, that we really pave the way for outdoor recreation to be a necessary part of American life. So with that, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jessica. We felt it was important to have Jessica talk about the outdoor recreation as an economic impact, and the RV industry should be extremely proud of our large role in that impact. Thank you again. Next up, and joining us via videos from Washington, D.C., our next three guests are the Congressmen from Indiana, Senator Jim Banks, Senator Todd Young, and Representative Rudy Yakum.
Hey Hoosiers, Congressman Rudy Yakum here. I wish I was back in Elkhart with you this morning, the RV capital of the world. However, I didn't want to pass up the opportunity to thank all of you for the incredible work you're doing for this great industry, and an industry that is so important to our region. In Congress, I'm proud to continue Jackie Walorski's legacy of being a champion of all things RV. One way that I'm doing that is by co-chairing the Congressional RV Caucus, so that your interests are represented and advanced here in our nation's capital. Another initiative I'm leading is common sense bipartisan legislation called the Travel, Trailer, and Camper Tax Parity Act. As many of you know, a mistake in the 2017 tax law means non-motorized towable RVs aren't eligible for the same exemption of floor plan financing from interest deductibility that a towable RV is. That means RV dealers have to maintain two separate sets of books, one for motorized and the other for non-motorized RVs. Not only is it unfair, it's also costing RV dealerships millions of dollars per year. My bill fixes this technical error, allowing dealers to focus less on paperwork and more on selling RVs to Americans looking to explore the great outdoors and our nation's vast natural beauty. As I go to bat for legislation and other priorities in Congress, it's heartening to know that there are so many of you doing the same thing back home. So keep up all your dedicated hard work. I hope you have a great breakfast, and I look forward to visiting with so many of you soon.
Hey everybody, Senator Jim Banks here. I'm so proud to be Indiana's new United States Senator in Washington. I wish I could be with all of you there today at the breakfast. I've enjoyed going to the breakfast in years past, but I'm in Washington, D.C. doing the work that you elected me to do. The RV industry is so important to Indiana. I appreciate all the contributions that you make, the good paying jobs that you provide, and all that you do for communities around Indiana. I know these are complicated and challenging times, but I look forward to continuing to work with you and President Trump to give your industry everything that you need to be as successful or more successful than ever. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly if I can be of help to any of you in the room, whether related to RV industry issues or anything else that you might have issues with that I can help with. Reach out anytime. It is an honor to represent you. Thank you. Have a great day, and God bless.
Hello, I'm Senator Todd Young. I want to commend you for your resilient spirit and the enduring impact that your industry has on the state of Indiana, which is the epicenter of RV manufacturing. The RV industry has long demonstrated the ability to adapt to change. From facilitating mobile clinics, providing alternative housing options, and promoting outdoor recreation, the RV industry is in many ways the heartbeat of American recreation. Your contributions are immeasurable, generating billions for our economy, sustaining hundreds of thousands of good jobs, and reviving the spirit of outdoor adventure. I'm also continually reminded of the hardworking men and women across this industry, particularly those in Elkhart, Indiana, and surrounding areas. Each of you drive America forward, and I'm honored to champion your cause in the U.S. Senate. I'm working with my colleagues to bolster American energy independence, which will drive costs down for American families, including the price of gas. As a member of the Senate Finance Committee, I'm also pushing for pro-growth tax policies that will stimulate our economy and encourage innovation to be included in this year's tax package. And we are cutting red tape that has burdened the manufacturing industry for far too long. As I said at the beginning, the RV industry has had an enduring impact on our economy, and that does not go unnoticed. Please don't hesitate to reach out if I can be helpful to you, and if there are issues you'd like to discuss. Thanks for allowing me to share a few words.
Our next guest is certainly no stranger to the RV industry. Mike Braun is the 52nd governor of Indiana and a conservative outsider who spent his career as a Main Street entrepreneur, building a business and creating thousands of good-paying Hoosier jobs. A business, by the way, that is very familiar to the RV industry, as that business, Meyer Distributing, is a distributor of RV parts and accessories for the aftermarket. As governor of Indiana, Governor Braun is working to preserve the same freedom and opportunity to achieve prosperity for future generations of Hoosiers. The values of faith, family, and community have guided the governor, while growing a business and raising a family have inspired his call to serve fellow Hoosiers throughout the years. Governor Braun began his public service as a member of the school board for 10 years, and then as a state representative from 2014 to 2017, and then in 2018, he was elected to be a conservative voice for Hoosiers in the U.S. Senate. He was elected governor of Indiana last November, and he has certainly hit the ground running. In his first 100 days of office, Governor Braun has signed several dozen bills into law. Among those bills was the RV-specific franchise legislation that governs the manufacturer-dealer relationship for RVs. The legislation was championed by State Senator Blake Doriot and State Representative Doug Miller, and the culmination of years of hard work by Ron Braemeier and Matt Rose of IMHA RVIC, Indiana State RV Association. Please join me in welcoming Governor Mike Braun to the stage.
What a pleasure to be here. The prior 6 years, I would have been up on the board recording a message to you. No substitute for being anywhere in person. I'm going to try to, in the 10 minutes or so I've got allotted, to give you the connection I've had with your industry. I'm going to talk about what's been going on in the place I used to work, so you don't get too uptight about it. I think I'll give you some ease in terms of the way that plane will get landed. Talk about what we're doing here in our own state, and then we're going to have a ceremonial signing of that bill that we got through the State House that actually codifies that special relationship between manufacturers and dealers. You know, I drift back to, gosh, it's many, many years ago, and those forks in the road where you've got to make big decisions. And that took me from wanting to be a doctor to not doing that, biology major. Hell, it took 9 years to complete that. I was too anxious to hit the pavement. Then I was going to become an attorney, political science major. That was going to take too long, and I settled on a business degree and lived away for 2 years, was good at numbers, thought I was going to go to Wall Street, and then something intervened. And what intervened is having a partner in life that actually wanted her own business. We wanted to raise a family together, and that wasn't going to work on Wall Street. I'll never forget when I informed my dad, after he had paid for that expensive education, that hey, Pops, not going to Wall Street. There was silence. He knew you weren't going to be trading up. And he said, well, what do you got in mind? I said, well, moving back home. And I don't think I told him, but it wasn't going to be back into the basement. It was going to be back to a place that I loved. I knew it was going to be a good place to raise a family, build a business. So, worked 3 years for the local kitchen cabinet company. When I remember, the guy said, you're a hometown boy with a good education. You stick around here 10 to 15 years, you might run this place. I remember the emphasis on might. I wasn't going to make that $100,000 Wall Street starting salary. Took an 81.5% pay cut. That's where rubber does meet the road. The humility of life, the consequences of your decisions. Smartest thing we ever did. My wife had already laid the groundwork at 505 Main Street, half block south of the courthouse, for her own business. And back then, in the late 70s and early 80s, to have a partner in life that not only wanted to raise a family, but bring home the bacon as well, I said, hell, let's go for it. That's going to take the pressure off me. Lasted 3 years at that kitchen cabinet company. It was $27 million in sales, had already gone public. It wasn't going to be the life for me. It's now a $3.5 billion company. It was called United Cabinet Corp, then Aristocraft, and then Master Brands, the biggest company that started in our hometown, and loved it when the mayor was up here earlier. so proud of the town he's from and what you've done. I always cite Elkhart in my hometown as being per capita, because I'm not claiming the extent and size of what you do, two of the most entrepreneurial places in the state. Along with being entrepreneurial, you got to have some guts to get through things that the markets are going to throw at you. Didn't realize how closely I was going to be associated with Elkhart until I went to this wobbly little business back in May of '81, soon to be circling the drain because it sold all of its products to farmers, and the farm crisis hit full blown, if you recall, in late '81. I'm sure in the industry that was the RV industry then, I know it was the automotive and commercial real estate crisis in '08 and '09. It was a farm crisis there in the early '80s. If you recall, it took Paul Volcker 5 years to wring out the nasty of inflation. We just got that from the Biden administration through the whole political enterprising of trying to grow government at the expense of the real economy, and we're working through that now. But Elkhart was a place where if you wanted aluminum running boards, a bug shield that would actually kill a bug, the ones that stood straight up and didn't look very good, roll bars, toolboxes. I think the first drop-in bed liner was a Duraliner. Protect-A-Liner, I think, was done right here in Elkhart. I'll never forget when they flew into French Lick in the mid-'80s, and we took on that line. I was in a used mobile home for 17 years after not working for that company that turned out to be the biggest kitchen cabinet company in the world, not going to Wall Street. You often wonder, are you making those right decisions? Well, perseverance, running your business like you're going broke. You'll never go broke, because one of my relatives in the poultry business said if you run it efficiently, you're going to find more opportunity coming out the other end of adversity than you can ever imagine. That sounded kind of abstract. It sounded kind of rough, but I took it to heart. Didn't get out of that trailer for 17 years. Had to do a milk run of selling truck accessories, most of them coming from Elkhart. Developed that into maybe going to Louisville, Terre Haute, Indianapolis. Remember, that's when bumpers didn't even come on pickup trucks. You had to buy them separately. We finally got a bumper distributorship, Hercules. That lasted about 3 years until Chevy started standardizing a bumper into the truck. This is not news to any of you. Many of the businesses probably started in the back room of something. But finally, when I started scaling the company in '08 and '09, leading up to it, everything I owned was a piece of commercial real estate. Everything I sold was into the automotive market. Well, the market shrunk by 50%. Private equity took out most of my regional competitors. The supply chain dropped by about 60%. The phone starts ringing off the hook. There's where you got to have your wits about you. Do you hunker down, or do you view it as opportunity? I always view trials and tribulation as opportunities, because your competitor probably is going to be a little more conservative at it. If you run yourself well, if you get a line of credit when you don't need it, because you won't get it when you need it, keep your overhead low, and always be enterprising for revenues. That, in a nutshell, is what I figured out, and I didn't need to learn it from the Harvard Business School. I learned most of that once I moved into that trailer. Well, that milk run that turned into a regional company now's got over 100 locations in 40 states and several in Canada. And just like trying to find what is the angle, well, my main competitor is a place called Keystone Automotive Operations that rolled up the RV distribution industry. We're now that family-owned national company that I ran as CEO and CFO, both meaningless when you're turning the lights on in the morning and off in the evening doing the janitorial work and your office is in a trailer. At least not down by the river. That's life. And you're in a business that when you look at it being larger than the ag market and oil and gas, I was surprised. That's because we love it. My main pastime is hunting and fishing. I do that far more than any governor or especially any senator. Now that I'm mentioning governors and senators, let's segue into the more complicated subject. I'm going to talk about the national economy. When I got there, Rick Scott lived in public housing. He turned Florida around when they were broke and gave a really good platter to Ron DeSantis. He and I came in, and there were 62, nothing against attorneys, remember I almost became one, but these are the folks that pivot into elected or appointed politics right out of law school. They don't know much. And when you want to run the country or your state, they're generally asking staffers 20 to 30 years old, and they Google it. So on the big stage, when you're so obtuse that you can't spend less than you take in, and then you double down on it and borrow money from our kids and grandkids. I was there 6 years, and I make everything a joyful experience once I'm doing it, but damn, that was hard to do. And you look now on all the things that need to be done, and there's one half of the other side of the aisle that wants more of it, wants to double down on it. Even in my own party, we've enabled it to happen. And it started way back in the 80s when Ronald Reagan cut taxes but didn't think we needed to do anything with spending. It was chump change then in the tens and hundreds of millions, quickly climbing to the tens and hundreds of billions, and now you see everything's denominated in trillions. Well, they run a $2 to $2.5 trillion annual deficit. Imagine in your own business, if you're doing $1 million and you're losing $300,000. Well, you wouldn't get your line of credit renewed. And we need to make, do you folks believe in term limits and a balanced budget amendment? Well, how about a round of applause for that? Until we get it, you're probably going to have to stay patient because this is the opening act. I'm always optimistic. Remember earlier, making lemonade out of lemons. Our biggest growth spurts in business were after 9/11, after 08 and 09, when I figured out the supply and demand formula. I put the pedal to the metal and then got us out to a place called California. That place is worse than the federal government, by the way. But you get through it. We prosper there. We don't want to plant our roots there, but you figure it out. And now we're going through some other trials and tribulations. We've been exporting our own resources due to imbalance in the trade account, which is now up to about $1 trillion. We're talking about the fiscal account, which is $2.5 trillion. That's a bad business plan. That's putting one hell of a burden on our kids and grandkids, and that's bad. Any knucklehead can do it. And the reason I decided, like no one does there, they campaign on term limits, I wasn't going to do it more than 2 terms, have amnesia quickly into their first term, and then you can see many of them you need to wheel out. And remember, hardly any of them have signed the front side of a paycheck. That's up to all of us to make a difference there over time. To me, the founders never intended it to evolve that way. 10th Amendment says if it's not specifically for the federal government, it's the state's responsibility. Worked pretty well. We gave the feds the income tax in 1913. LBJ set the template for the Great Society even then they wouldn't borrow from their kids and grandkids. And we've gone back to what I talked about earlier, to where we are there. We'll get through it. Quickly on tariffs, if we don't right-size those relationships, we're going to keep exporting our own resources. We'll be okay. We're resilient. I know a lot of the industry has got some of their supply chain there. My prediction is the first bilateral arrangement with either India, Japan, or South Korea, it'll cascade. The market's already anticipating it. It's going to be a wrestling match with China. Don't have time to go into that. They need us more than we need them. They're 2/3 the size of our economy. Their business partner, Russia, their economy is only slightly larger than that of Florida's. We hold the cards, but do we have the willpower to do it? As a hedge, we need to make sure every one of our states is running the way it should. And when I came back, I viewed it as a big opportunity, just like I did all throughout those years of growing a business. And already, the White House is looking to Indiana because they know what we did in that broken system. And I've got a relationship. When they wanted to bring education completely back to the states, dismantle it there, it should have never been there. They called me first to come out there and back that up. We've got an excellent relationship with DC, but we can't depend on them. We can depend on ourselves and our own state governments. First thing I did was reorganized it to make it entrepreneurial. When you've got complaints, when your own state isn't working well, you can get a hold of me, or you can get a hold of 8 entrepreneurial secretaries running the 8 policy silos that had no organizational chart to it. I'm going to lean up state government. It's going to be paying attention to the customer, the constituent, because hell, I did that for 37 years. We even took that to a new level in a dysfunctional place like DC. So you've been through it before. We're going to get through it on the national scene. We have to do it now. It only gets harder later. And whether it ends up going through a thing like a Chapter 11 on the fiscal account, it is so easy to fix the trading account. My friend Donald Trump, got to know him, by the way, in Elkhart, Indiana. When found out he's flying the Beast in his vehicle, and I'm taking a road trip with him and Jackie Walorski and Todd Young from South Bend to Elkhart. First thing he says, looks like you like to dress a little casually. Of course, remember I ran with a blue shirt and sleeves rolled up. I wasn't going to get in an argument with the president, but I said it was my brand. He said, okay, makes sense. Next thing he wanted to know is how big is the Elkhart gym? I didn't really know. I just knew we had the biggest high school gyms in the state, and in the country, and said, hey, it's a big gym. And then he asked me, do you want to bring Bobby Knight into your campaign? I mean, I didn't know where we were going on subject 4. Then the crowd started showing up. That actually happened the Thursday before election, and I was more excited. That was the 3rd rally. The last one was in Fort Wayne the day before. And he said, hey, Knight's over there. I want to introduce you to him. Of course, they hugged and had a good conversation. And this is one of those moments in life where you get humbled. And I think you can imagine how that conversation went with Bob Knight. Trump says, you want to meet the next senator from Indiana? And I look over at Knight, really excited about, hey, young man, all you got to do is listen to the Donald and you'll be okay. End of conversation. Well, those are the moments in life that you treasure. But what I treasure most is I decided to move back to my hometown, tried to pick the right forks in the road along the way, and view everything we're going through as opportunity. Get through the trial and tribulation. We'll get it right eventually in DC, but I'm going to give you a state government that is going to be run like a business. It's going to stress freedom and opportunity. not contrived results from government, and it is going to be based upon the principles that built my life: faith, family, and community. Thank you so much for having me here today. Now, to cap off what our state legislators did on Senate Enrolled Act 484, we're going to do a ceremonial signing up here. Like I said earlier, the law creates regulatory clarity that an industry as important as yours deserves. It will guarantee fair treatment for manufacturers and dealers. Putting together a bill like this strikes, I think, a good balance between manufacturers and dealers. I want to recognize the hard work of Senator Blake Dorio, Senator Gary Byrne, Jim Toms, Ed Charbonneau, Stacy Donato, Susan Glick, and Senator Linda Rogers, who I talked to here earlier today. It's really landmark legislation for a state. These are the kind of things, as your governor, it's going to be easier to do business in Indiana and to grow your businesses. And when you need help from your state government, make sure to speak up, talk to your legislators, and I'm going to make sure I'm listening on my end. So look forward to doing this ceremonial signing. Thank you. Got some other legislators from the area up here, so good to have them all here as well. So you've got a great slate of legislators up here, and I can tell you the 3 years I spent in the state legislature, came in with Doug back in, elected in 2014. We've got a great state. We've got a mountain of opportunity because you got a governor that's been from the real world of running a business, a tutorial of 3 years in the State House and 6 years in the Big House. And there, it takes 4 to 6 to 8 years, meaning 2, 3, or 4 Congresses to get any kind of legislation through. And normally, it's not ground shifting. Here, we get through it in 3.5 months in a budget session, and 2.5 months, and I got into it on the fly this year, but I intend to get along with a great slate of legislators, and stay tuned for what your state is going to do. You're going to be hearing about us just like you do Texas or Florida or many of the other entrepreneurial conservative states. So let's give it up for this slate of legislators that gave you a good product this year.
Thank you, Mr. Governor. Jeff Reynolds, everybody else gets a 15-minute break to use the restroom. Jeff said he needed 25 minutes, but we will take a 15-minute break now. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Please take your seats. Welcome back. Please take your seats. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back, everyone. Please take your seats. If we could maybe have somebody check on Runnels, make sure he's okay. Okay. Welcome back, everyone. Let's begin the second half of our program this morning. Want to thank Governor Braun again. And let's begin with the second half. Our next presentation is from Mark Lemoyne, the Senior Vice President of Franchise Operations for Campgrounds of America, KOA, the world's largest branded system of campgrounds with over 500 franchised and company-owned locations across North America. Not a small job, Mark. Mark has owned and operated the Coloma St. Joseph KOA Holiday in Southwest Michigan since 2016. He is an active franchisee, having founded a 20 group, engaged as a member of the KOA Owners Association, and presently serves on the Care Camps Foundation Board of Directors. Please join me in welcoming KOA's Mark Lemoyne.
Well, good morning. And again, I bring greetings from Toby O'Rourke, the President and CEO of KOA. Normally, Toby would be here. Unfortunately, she could not attend due to her scheduling conflict, but understanding the power of gathering together in this room and everyone that's here, she asked me to come and speak on her behalf. There we go. Just by way of introduction, since September of 2024, I've had the honor of focusing on improving the internal workings of the KOA brand. I bring a perspective, as Rick shared, because I'm also a KOA franchisee right here in Michiana, just 1 hour up the road in St. Joseph, Michigan, where my wife and I own the Coloma St. Joseph KOA. I married my college sweetheart. We always dreamed of being in business for ourselves. And camping and the outdoors has also always played a very important role in my life. I grew up camping, as did my wife. We took our now adult children camping when they were younger, and we still enjoy camping together as a family. My first career was in the field of government affairs, so unlike the previous governor, I did get my political science degree. And for 24 years, I did that role, and in 2016, I hit what I referred to as my midlife reset button, where I took a leap of faith to become an entrepreneur. And I took the time to purchase a KOA that was built in 1974 from its original owners. Deferred maintenance doesn't begin to describe what I inherited. But taking on that challenge, we made strategic investments in renovations. We built a solid work camper and management team, and we grew our business as part of the largest name in outdoor hospitality. We credit our success with the franchise model, and I now bring these firsthand experiences and passion to my role with the KOA home office. As many of you, and as Rick said, I don't do board well, so I'm also engaged in other things. As a member of the KOA family, I've been an active member of the KOA Owners Association since 2016. I'm a founding member of a 20 group that is a peer group that gets together, challenging each other to do our best as iron sharpens iron. And my wife and I were recognized as KOA's 2021 Rising Star Award, which is an award we give each year to a franchisee who's been in the system for less than 5 years. I'm engaged in the local community, having served on the board of directors for the Southwest Michigan Regional Chamber of Commerce since 2018, 5 of which I was the chair, and currently serve now as the past board chair. And like many of you, I hold the Care Camps Foundation very near and dear to my heart. I've been on the board since 2020, and this is a charity, as you know, that raises money to help kids with cancer enjoy a medically supervised camp experience. It's deeply rooted in the DNA of KOA because in 1984 it was founded by a couple KOA franchisees who were looking to raise just a little bit of money to support one camp. That dream has now grown where we support over 120 camps across the United States and Canada, helping thousands of children and their families. And today, having been joined by so many of you in the room, in addition to KOA, we have RV manufacturers, RV suppliers, RV dealers, all supporting this incredible cause. Collectively, over the last 40 years, we have raised more than $27 million, which is just awesome. So thank you for your continued support. And I'm pleased to be joined this morning by my colleagues and friends, the managers of the Coloma St. Joseph KOA, Richard and Jennifer Burlingham, my fellow franchisees and from the Indianapolis KOA holiday and KOA's 2022 Campground of the Year, Dave and Lori Vaughn, and of course Gwen Sullivan, Executive Director of the Care Camps Foundation. Thank you guys for being here this morning, cheering me on. All right, but probably the most interesting thing about me that you might like to know is that with a little shout out to Casey Tubman and the Winnebago Industries family, is that from the fall of 2021 to January of this year, my wife and I literally traveled thousands of miles across this amazing country, living full-time in our 2015 Newmar Baystar we affectionately refer to as JoJo, which is short for Joy Journey. We have absolutely loved exploring the open road as we transitioned into the empty nest stage of our life, where my favorite 4 words as I would check into a campground was, no kids, no pets. So through all of this, I know the product of the outdoor hospitality industry. I know the people. and I'm learning the process now, both as a franchisee and a franchisor, and working collaboratively across the industry with all of you. So enough about me. Let's talk about some statistics that I know you really wanted to hear this morning. As a campground owner and executive, I'm so pleased to be a part of the broader RV ecosystem. As Toby has spoken here at this group, she set the vision that we all share this customer across their journey, and we play a role at the recruitment and retention of that camper. There are many ways that we can work collaboratively on simplifying and streamlining the camper experience, and over the past 5 years, we've grown a lot together as we've faced many challenges. As we look at the rearview mirror, this graph shows the occupancy cycle for the KOA system since 2018. Since the peak in 2021, there's been a gradual decline in camper nights. Although about half of our parks are still ahead of where they were before as a system, collectively we're experiencing what we're referring to as a reset to pre-pandemic levels. In many ways, it's almost as if the pandemic never happened. Last year, there were several headwinds that we felt affected our business. The cruising industry was up significantly over 2019. International outbound travel has now fully recovered, with many heading to Europe in particular. There were inflationary pressures that were felt powerfully by lower income households, and towards the end of the year, some travel was affected by election anxiety and the storms that hit, particularly in the southeastern United States. All of these things combined, we also see that in our data that RVs have lost ground, which is what I wanted to spend a little more time closely on today. Of the estimated 8.1 million households across North America who camped last year, 19% did so in a recreational vehicle. This number, though, is down 23% since 2023, and it accounts for a decline of 2.3 million in the number of households. Now, about 10 million households camped last year in an RV, which is just above the level in 2018. So we see a big opportunity to grow camper nights by the re-engagement of the lapsed RVer. This presents a collective challenge across the ecosystem as we head into this year amidst everything that's going on. We want to get these RVers camping again, not only to cultivate business today, but to seed RV purchase activity in the future. Now, knowing that purchase and travel decisions are tied to discretionary spending, we recently did a pulse check on the economic sentiments this spring with camping households. And it shows a split view on economic confidence, with 39% feeling positive and 32% feeling, shall we say, more pessimistic. Similarly, 1/3 feel their personal finances have improved since the beginning of this year, and about 1/4 feel that they have lost ground on their family finances. In some ways, this isn't surprising because this graph also mirrors the political divide that characterizes our country. But we watch this extremely closely because we know how it affects, again, ultimately, discretionary spending and their travel decisions. Looking at the numbers positively, we see strong intent of RV owners to camp this year, 80%. And 36% are saying they will go camping more in 2025 than they did last year. In large part, we believe that this is tied to the view that camping is an affordable activity. This year in particular, we really want to lean into affordability. 72% view camping as an affordable vacation option when compared to other types of travel. Over half of families who camp specifically say they do so because it is cost effective. Now, as we continue to work to more fully understand our RV guests, we find that just over half of them, 56%, hold household incomes of less than $75,000 a year, with 40% earning less than $50,000 a year. Therefore, the value proposition of affordability and family-friendly recreation is extremely important. Now, even though there's economic uncertainty, we believe that when people own an RV, they're going to use it. 73% of RV households in 2024 owned their RV, and this is a significant increase than from before the pandemic. So despite the fact that we have lower camper nights, we have a larger pool to draw from. If we focused on this lapsed RVer, who maybe started doing other things once again last year, then we can re-engage and strengthen their commitment to and their enjoyment of the outdoors and camping. Recently, the airlines industries, for example, have lowered their numbers of what they're expecting here in 2025, and we believe this is going to translate into other forms of travel, which hopefully involves some camping. Beyond the re-engagement, we also see a solid pipeline of interest in purchasing now and in the future amongst households who do not own an RV. At the beginning of the year, 21% say that they plan to purchase an RV this year, and 41% are interested in doing so at some point in the future. And likewise, for those RVers who do not own a unit, there is a lot of interest to rent, with 44% of non-RV owners showing interest this year. Again, if we can get people engaged in camping activity this year, we believe it will lead to future RV sales at a time when they feel they can then later afford it. So short and sweet, as I close this morning, I'll use the analogy that Toby has often shared. As members of the RV ecosystem here, we're tending to a fire. And like any fire, it can die down. So we gotta work together to stoke it up. Creatively, to do things together, re-engaging that lapsed RVer and sparking interest in RVing in the future. Now these statistics and more are available on our website at koa.com. Scroll down all the way to the bottom and there's a link that says resources, and it's entitled the North American Camping and Outdoor Hospitality Report, which we've done for a number of years now. Thank you again. I look forward to partnering with all of you again as we collectively work to navigate this challenging year.
Thank you, Mark. Our next presentation is from the RV Industry Association, which represents the manufacturers and component suppliers producing approximately 98% of all RVs manufactured in North America. Representing RVIA is Board Chair Mary Pouliot. There's Mary. Who is also the Executive Vice President for Thetford, and Craig Kirby, who has been the RVIA's President and CEO since 2019. Welcome.
Good morning. This might be one of the fastest power breakfasts, so I'm going to feel a little bad taking up the whole hour they gave me. When I took over as chair in January, they failed to mention that I was going to have to do public speaking in front of 1,300 people. So I like to be at the second half because usually there's a long line for the men's bathroom, and a lot of people already made it out the door. So unfortunately, I don't have any RV industry baby-making stories, but like the mayor did, but I can talk about the RV Industry Association, and that's what I'm going to do today. The staff of the RV Industry Association works hard every single day for all of us. They work to protect and promote this industry. And if you think about it, I have one boss and I can barely manage my boss. They have approximately 500 bosses. That's all of us. So imagine the work they have to do each and every day to protect and promote this industry. I thought it'd be appropriate today to focus on one area because it's top of mind for most of us, and that's the government affairs area. I think it's been the theme for the morning, the month, and I think it's going to be the theme for several more months to come. That team is led by Jason Reno, and if you need his cell phone number, I have it, because I call him, I think, every day. But I did jot down a few examples of what that team is working on for all of us that I thought was really important to share so you understand exactly what they're doing, and they're doing daily in and out for each and every one of us on that team. So the team monitors trade and tariff developments, advocating for policies that protect the American RV industry. They also engage with key stakeholders to share the potential impact of these tariffs and the uncertainty surrounding them. Recently, they created a tariff tracker, which is available on the website at rvia.org. I promise you, it's better than Googling RV tariff updates or just tariff updates in general. Go to the tracker. They update it often. I use it, I think, pretty much on the hour. The other thing we're working on, the second thing, is dealer floor planning financing. There are bipartisan bills in both the House and Senate to ensure RV dealers can fully deduct interest on floor plan financing for RVs, including non-motorized towable trailers. Representative Rudy has championed this issue in Congress, and we now have 10 additional co-sponsors. Senator Joni Ernst and Angus King have introduced companion legislation in the U.S. Senate. The third thing they're working on, and not the only thing, engaging with new members of the administration. The team is looking for opportunities to roll back burdensome regulations and prevent any additional regulations that could negatively impact our businesses. At the state level, the association has been in active discussions with CARB and other state entities to address regulations affecting RV sales. The last thing I'll mention is RV manufacturer dealer agreements. RVIA has worked to get laws passed at the state level that govern RV manufacturer dealer agreements, creating a system that better reflects the relationship between RV manufacturers and dealers. We now have RV-specific franchise laws in 24 states, and that's up 3 from the last Power Breakfast. Looking ahead, we are building momentum for the first week of June, where we'll all come together in Washington, D.C. to advocate for the industry. And I encourage you to get involved and be a part of that. If there's any year we need all the voices, this happens to be the year. So I also encourage you to get involved in the industry alone. I mean, join a committee, be on a board. If you have questions, please ask. I know I feel like an infomercial, but really, guys, it's our voices, and they do work for all of us. It's our voices that help them and guide them in what to do. So while I provided a rundown of the protection side of what they do for us, I want to turn it over to Craig Kirby, who's the president, and have him talk about the promote side.
Thanks, Mary. You know, first thing I want to say is that you guys are the best bosses. Let me be clear about that. We're very fortunate on that front. Second, I'm so glad you got to hear from Jessica Wall-Turner here today from ORR and all the great things that ORR is doing. They're making a huge difference for the industry. And I saw it actually happen right on the break with the governor. I think this is going to lead to Indiana having its own Office of Outdoor Recreation, because he definitely wants to beat Iowa. So that was good news. So while there are indeed real challenges that we are facing, we have demonstrated time and again how resilient we are. And it is clear that on the whole that we're working better together as an industry than we ever have before. Manufacturers, suppliers, dealers, and campgrounds. As we must face challenges, we must also take advantage of opportunities. And another vital area where we're working very good together is Go RVing. Go RVing's mission is to attract a broader consumer base to the RV world, inspire potential RVers, and raise awareness about the benefits and accessibility of RVing through authentic storytelling and targeted marketing strategies. And our efforts are paying big dividends. Earlier this year, Go RVing released the 2025 demographic study, revealing a dynamic shift in the RV ownership landscape. This study unveiled a younger, more diverse, and increasingly more engaged RV owner base. The median age of RV owners has declined from 53 in 2021 to 49 in 2025, with 46% of owners now falling within the 35 to 54 age range. The RV community is becoming more inclusive and diverse, a segment that now makes up 30% of RV owners. RV owners are also spending more time on the road, with the median number of days now at 30. That's a 50% increase from 2021. And this is real important because one of the main reasons cited by consumers for leaving RVing is that they're not using the vehicle enough. So this is a positive trend that we're seeing. What's exciting is that Go RVing recently finished filming a brand new advertising campaign that is launching nationwide this month. Just Beyond Your Door is a visually immersive campaign like no previous Go RVing campaign that highlights all of the possibilities and unexpected adventures every time you open the door to your RV. The production utilized state-of-the-art technology to create digital environments that are displayed on large LED screens, allowing for real-time in-camera visual effects and dynamic interactive sets. The team created a behind-the-scenes video that I'd like to share with you along with the first commercial of the Just Beyond Your Door campaign. Well, hopefully they'll show, yeah.
Is it really different directing a commercial on a video wall versus an actual location?
To be honest, it's easier, I'd say, to do it with the VP wall because you kind of know exactly what you're looking for. We built these scenes already for the specific shot that we wanted to get. It's all been kind of worked out. There's actually less things to worry about because you know what the final shot's going to look like already without having to worry about all the unknown things that you might find on location.
The experience itself has been amazing. To watching the art department work their magic has been pretty fascinating, to turn what is basically a blank canvas into a really powerful, impactful, emotive environment.
Okay, let's let's try the haze. Bit of both, huh? But like, just be really.
How do we now make this come to life? The way of doing it practically is traveling around for 2 weeks and finding different locations.
And this is really a first for Go RVing because everything we've ever produced has always been out in nature. So we have the elements. It's just been a whole different production experience for me after all these years.
Taking advantage of this really movie-making technology and bringing it to the RV industry is just super cool. I mean, it's just like you said, it's something we've never done before, and it's able to just elevate the lifestyle and the things that RVing is to so many new people.
Process for this particular shoot has been completely different from anything I've ever done in the past. The technology of virtual production and the Unreal Engine is really something that's a little bit newer to advertising, but for us to be using it on a commercial shoot is very new just to the industry as a whole.
When you go RVing, every open door brings new possibilities, new memories to be made, new places to explore, new ways to feel alive. All the freedom of the open road and all the comforts of home. Wherever you go, it's all there waiting for you, just beyond your door.
As you can see, very inspiring creative that will deliver hundreds of millions of video views across media partners such as Netflix, Amazon, YouTube, Disney, and also, really help build excitement with consumers and drive customers to RV dealerships. We appreciate the industry's continued support of Go RVing. It truly is the envy of many other industries. In closing, I'd like to borrow a page from Mary's comments that I encourage you to attend RV's Move America Week, the first week of June in Washington, D.C. It's a great event, and it really is your participation that moves the needle on Capitol Hill. Finally, I would be remiss if I didn't recognize that today is our former chair, Kevin McCart's birthday. Happy birthday, Kevin. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mary and Craig. Tall people. We'll now hear from Michaela Grimes of Lippert and Mike Geddard of Coachman, who are here representing the Emerging Leaders Coalition, and the two serve as co-chairs of RVIA's Industry Volunteer Day. Launched in 2022, Industry Volunteer Day has grown significantly with successful park cleanup projects completed at Potato Creek State Park, Oxbow County Park, and Chain of Lakes State Park. This initiative has garnered major recognition, including the 2024 National Association of State Park Directors President's Award for Excellence in Enhancing State Parks. Next week, they will kick off another industry-wide event project at Bonnieville Mill County Park in Bristol. Let's welcome Michaela Grimes and Mike Geddard to the stage.
Good morning. As co-chairs of the industry-wide Volunteer Day, Mike and I are excited to celebrate the incredible dedication of over 1,200 volunteers and 35 businesses who have completed 42 projects across 3 different parks in just 3 days. This truly showcases the powerful impact of our industry.
This year, for the first time, we'll honor individuals and businesses that have excelled in making this initiative a success. Every volunteer and supporter is vital to this movement. Your teamwork drives the initiative forward. The first annual Trailblazer for Tomorrow Award recognizes project leaders who have gone above and beyond by volunteering their time and talent. Please stand as we call your name. Congratulations to Mitch Matson, Dustin Cloud, Merv Hostetler, and Cody Shade. We have awards for you guys that can be picked up right after the event this morning.
Congratulations, guys. We're also excited to present the Champion of Parks and Partnership Award, honoring businesses that empower teamwork and collaboration across all areas of the industry for the greater good. Through substantial volunteer support and donations, these businesses reinforce the idea that together we can achieve so much more. This year, we are honored to be giving out this award to 2 different businesses. We would like to congratulate Dometic and Keystone RV Company for earning this award.
Congratulations to all of our 2024 All Industry Volunteer Day Award recipients. These awards represent not just individual successes, but a unified commitment to enhancing our industry and outdoor spaces. Each recipient is a testament to the impact we can make when we unite our strengths.
Thank you to everyone who has contributed to this initiative. Your time and focus reflect the core values of our industry and the difference we can make together. Let's inspire the next generation of leaders.
We look forward to seeing many of you next Thursday, May 15th at Bonneville Mill as we continue this important work for our community. Thank you, everyone, for the time this morning.
Thank you, Michaela and Mike. Next up will be a presentation from the RV Dealers Association, which of course is the national association representing the interests of RV dealers, rental companies, and RV aftermarket stores. Representing RVDA is Board Chairman Larry Trout III, the owner and general manager of Toppers RV in Waller, Texas, and Phil Ingracia, who has been with RVDA for almost 30 years and its president since 2012. Welcome, Larry and Phil.
I'm up first, right? Yep. All right, thank you guys. Mary stole my thunder with the baby making joke there. I was going to pull that one out of my pocket, but she beat me to it. So as you can tell, and you can probably tell by my appearance, we were out building relationships last night. So a little joke there for you guys. Knock on wood if you're with me. There you go. That was a John Gruden thing. I always wanted to try that. Nobody knocked, though, so it didn't really hit. So here, we'll go forward with the stuff they wrote for me and keep it simple here. So good morning, everyone. Pleased to be here representing the U.S. RV dealers and spend a few minutes with you to reflect on where we stand and where we're headed. It's no secret that the RV industry is facing some headwinds. Like many business sectors right now, we've seen our share of challenges from shifting economic conditions to changes in consumer behavior. Shit, there's a lot of you out here. I just looked all the way to the back. Jesus Christ. I know there's a lot of my friends here too, so you're probably expecting what's happening right now, but I just looked all the way to the back, and goddamn, there's a lot of people here. So, Mary, you were right on that one too. They didn't tell us about public speaking in front of all these people, so I'm trying not to cuss here. Sorry about that. So, but one thing remains crystal clear: this business is resilient. It always has been. You only need to look at the history of our dealerships, many of which, like me, are family-owned. Some are in their second or third year or fourth generation of leadership. Whether it is a single location store or the growing network of multi-point dealerships, the spirit is still the same. A deep-rooted belief in what we do every day to serve our customers and a consistent focus on the future. Why is that? Because the core desire that drives our industry, the American passion for travel, for discovery, and for spending time outdoors has not changed. Motorhomes and travel trailers are more than products. They're a gateway to freedom, adventure, and connection. That spirit isn't going away. Almost every day, our friends at RVBusiness report dealership acquisitions, service department expansion, new sales facilities, new locations opening across the country. These are not short-term plays. These are long-term investments because we know this industry has staying power. You guys are supposed to be chanting my name over there. We made a deal at the bar last night. Thank you. Thank you. We won $100 off of Cody last night as well. He's going to try and win it after this at golf. So if you guys want to come and watch that, it'll be fun. Our monthly dealer sentiment survey backs this up. Despite the current challenges, long-term optimism is growing. Dealers are telling us loud and clear they believe in the road ahead. This confidence is also fueled by the incredible people who make the industry run. Nearly 60,000 people are employed by an RV dealership across the United States. That's 60,000 jobs, good jobs, that support families and local communities. We are also investing in the future of our workforce right here in Elkhart. Dealers are taking advantage of the RV Technical Institution, which is training the next generation of skilled RV technicians. And through the Mike Molino RV Learning Center, dealership staff from service advisors and parts folks, see how they put folks in there because they wanted it to sound like I'm talking, so are getting the professional development they need to succeed and grow. So yes, we're navigating some bumps in the road, but if you ask me, this industry is not slowing down, it's gearing up. Together, with the commitment, investment, and the same pioneering spirit represented here at the RV Hall of Fame, we'll keep moving forward. Now I'd like to turn it over to Phil for his remarks. Thank you for bearing with me. We're done now.
Larry's kind of a tough act to follow, but I'll try. I just want to let everybody know that RVDA, through the RV Learning Center, is working to help our frontline fixed operations people, service writer advisors, service managers, and parts and warranty people to help them train and do a better job for everybody in this room, the suppliers, the manufacturers, and of course, our shared customers. Our 5th fixed operations online course for service managers will launch this summer. And throughout the next few months, you'll be hearing that. More about that. We're going to be reintroducing these fixed operations training programs to the industry and providing some more flexibility for people to take part of those programs. I think it's going to help the industry with our repair event cycle time priorities. And I also want to thank everybody in this room for their help on the travel trailer floor plan tax issue. It's a very important issue for dealers, and we really appreciate the partnership with RVIA, their great government relations team, and all the manufacturers who are helping in that effort to, let's face it, make it a fair tax situation for towable dealers. That's it. Thank you very much.
Larry Trout. You can't stop him, you can only hope to contain him. Thank you, Larry and Phil. Our final speaker today is another familiar face to all of us, noted economist Peter Marisi, whose appearance is made possible by Wells Fargo DF. Peter Marisi is a professor emeritus of international business at the R.H. Smith School of Business at the University of Maryland and a recognized expert on economic policy and international economics. Prior to joining the university, he served as director of the Office of Economics at the U.S. International Trade Commission. He is the author of 18 books and monographs and is published widely in leading public policy and business journals, including the Harvard Business Review and Foreign Policy. Morisi has lectured and offered executive programs at more than 100 institutions, including Columbia University, the Harvard Business School, and Oxford University. His views are frequently featured on CNN, CBS, BBC, Fox, ABC, CNBC, NPR, NPB, and so on and so on and so on, and national broadcast networks around the world. Please welcome Peter Morisi.
At my age, you're entitled to be forgetful. I want to thank you all for having me. I guess this is the 4th or 5th time I've come to the Power Breakfast, and it's always a pleasure to be with you. I had the pleasure last fall of going out to Mississauga and visiting with suppliers and rock run industry and so forth. This is just a great industry. It's great to be away from Washington, to be honest, where people make things besides memoranda in trouble. One of the important things I think to remember is that in Washington, and so much of our attention is focused there, the way you move an issue is by screaming that the world is going to come to an end. Did I mess up your microphones? Or did you turn them off? Okay, is that what you want? They really want it in your face. All right, and so, on every issue that we have, people make it sound like the world's going to come to an end, and with the kind of amplification we have with so many different streams of media, it can seem that way, and it really isn't. Just about everything that we're going through, we have been through before as a species, as a civilization, and as the American people. For example, climate change, the Dust Bowl. Climate change is affecting us most fundamentally by rising tides, a warmer ocean, which gives us more intense, quickly accelerating storms, and flooding conditions in places we simply would not have expected them to be. I mean, how many people retired to Asheville, North Carolina, or receded there for distance working and so forth, thought they would have the kinds of troubles they're having, or had last year? The most tangible consequence of this is that a lot of developed real estate is no longer going to be valuable, simply because it will be too expensive to occupy. Now, 10 years ago, the kinds of stuff that I would see about that would be like, say, studies of Southampton, the barrier islands on Long Island, flooding too many days of the year to be practical, to be bailing out and getting out. In reality, it catches up with you much sooner than that. Before you get to that point, you get a homeowner's insurance bill, which is as expensive as the price of the house. And so you can't afford it, and you realize the risks are too high. The value of the house goes down, the value of the condominium goes down, and people have to migrate. And that's essentially, we're in the beginnings of that right now. A lot of capital will be abandoned. A lot of cities will survive, like places like Miami, but they'll have to be hardened. New York City will survive, but it'll have to be hardened. All of this is going to be very expensive, and it's going to raise our cost of capital, because capital is going to be destroyed, and new capital is going to have to be created in its place. Migration. Migration is being driven by several things. One of them is population explosion in the third world at the same time as there's a great sucking sound in the north, and that is a baby drought. By, frankly, dysfunctional governments that don't deliver the kinds of services in rural places and sometimes in cities, but in rural places that can respond to things like big storms, famines, droughts, and what have you. So people gravitate to big cities. You know, they move to places like Rio de Janeiro or cities in Africa. And in turn, there's just not enough opportunity. There's a labor shortage in the north. So eventually they find their way here. I know people have varying emotional reactions to Donald Trump's deportation program. But I think that we should step back and ask ourselves, if we're looking at it from an economic point of view, what's the likelihood he's going to be able to deport 13 million people? The answer is he can't. Great Britain has spent the last two governments trying to accomplish this, and they have a moat, yet they have lots of unauthorized immigrants. I mean, the answer is whenever you build a wall, people go around it. And one way or another, they will go around it. And putting a tariff on Mexico or Canada or whatever is not going to solve that problem. But I'd like to focus you on the upside of that. We have just come off of the 6 years of extraordinarily strong growth, much stronger than economists predicted was possible. What else is new? You know, the economists always have their head, you know, they're always looking down. Dismal science. According to economists, the U.S. economy cannot grow any more rapidly than 1.9% a year because of the trends in productivity growth and the trends in population. Well, for the last 6 years, we've averaged 2.5%. 2.5 versus 1.9 doesn't sound like a lot, but in reality, it's more than 25% more growth. Well, where did it come from? For one thing, after COVID, we got a lot of people to go back to work, but we ran out of those people. Around the middle of 2023, the U.S. economy, on the basis of the domestic population, that is regular immigrants and new 18-year-olds, had reached full employment. The unemployment rate was 3.5% about. From that point forward, we could only find new workers for about 80,000 jobs a month. Going forward, we created 200,000 jobs a month. Where did all those people come from? They're the people without driver's licenses Donald Trump's trying to deport. The reality is they have been growing the country for us. Now, they don't necessarily do it by establishing another Microsoft, but those people that make sandwiches for us in places like Chicago and New York and so forth are replacing people like myself in the form of my parents and grandparents who go to universities, who go to trade schools, and move on to something else. My old neighborhood on Long Island was basically Italian immigrants, and now it's basically Asians and Latinos. My old high school had a great football team back in the 1950s because the first inhabitants of my area were Dutch and German, and they were big and strong. And then the Italians came, and we played great baseball. And we were champions at lacrosse, and we had a terribly small line. My brother, the biggest of us, of the Marisi boys, and there were plenty of us, played guard at 160 pounds. The guy he was up against was always 220. I mean, it was absurd. It would just bounce off. But now I can imagine what the football team is like, you know, with Asians and Latinos. I would think that they're probably 0-17, even though they only played 10 games. Nevertheless, they're mighty hard workers. They're mighty strong intellectually. They make great students. My students at the University of Maryland probably are as liberal as the students at Columbia or progressive or whatever you want to call it, because that's the way young people are. But they're not, you know, shutting down the World Bank or even shutting down the library. Why? They're too busy trying to find a way to make their lives better. They're at Maryland to make their lives better, not to celebrate and, frankly, to hold in contempt the success of their parents. Because the success of their parents was to just give them the opportunity to be there. And they're the American dream, and they're the future of your industry. You know, when I first started coming to you, your customer base wasn't very diverse, and now it's becoming more diverse. Because as these people become more prosperous and, frankly, become more American, then they want to discover the things that are American. And I don't know that there's anything more American than enjoying the beauty of our country, which is what you offer. So my feeling is these people grow into the economy, there's opportunity for you, just as like there was opportunity for the Carnegies and so forth when the first Peter Morici, who rolled cigars in Lower Manhattan and carried a silver pocket watch that I gave my son at his law school graduation, did. They're the same kind of people. Now, we're about to unlock in America fantastic growth potential. You know, yesterday there was a great article in the Wall Street Journal how the guy at Meta, Facebook, Zuckerberg, said, well, you're going to have more AI assistants, essentially, than friends. You know, you're going to have an agent to be your therapist, an agent to be your best friend, your agent to be your surrogate wife or your surrogate husband and so forth. That's nice. That's imagination stuff. The reality is the real money to be made in AI is in designing agents to do mundane tasks in the office that we don't like to do. It's basically automating office work and therefore making us all more productive. The folks at Morgan Stanley, and remember, economists tend to be pessimistic and underestimate the potential growth of things. Generally speaking, when an economist talks about the future, you multiply it by 2 if it's on the upside, and you divide it by 2 if it's on the downside. They estimate that it could add, by 2029, 1% a year to annual productivity growth. So instead of a trend rate of growth with a regular population increase of 0.5% a year of 1.8%, it becomes 2.8%. And if you add in a reasonable level of immigration, somehow or other getting a handle on it, having reasonable immigration reform, so we decide what we can handle, how much we can assimilate, and get this regularized again, you know, we can grow better than 3% a year again, like the 50s and 60s. Because where they had automation, we will have AI. And it's happening. Lots of little firms are popping up designing agents. Remember when this thing came along and there were all these little companies designing apps so they get you to sign up for $2 a month? Well, what Salesforce does is basically get, you know, $1 a hit out of a company for an AI agent that handles calls at a call center. That's a lot of money. And there's a lot of different little companies that'll get bought up by people like Salesforce and Meta and so forth that are doing the same thing. The only real barrier I see to them is the fact that the cost of capital is going to be higher going forward than it hasn't been in the past for a lot of reasons. One of them is that all of this is very capital intensive. Google was started on $25 million. I mean, for that, you couldn't even buy enough chips to get ChatGPT going. I mean, we're talking about the billions for them, you know, maybe even $1 trillion to get them finally going. So my feeling is that the cost of capital is going to be expensive, but there are a lot of little companies out there developing. When I was a kid in school, I asked Mr. Buffardi in the 8th grade, did anybody, we're doing American history, did anybody really make any money in the gold rush? And he said, of course, Peter. It was the people that sold the shovels. Salesforce is making a lot of shovels these days, and so is Adobe and all the little companies that they're buying up. They're the shovel makers. And that's where the growth is. And so, you know, I'm kind of optimistic. I'm not pessimistic because we've been relying on the Magnificent Seven. Going forward, it's not going to be the Mag 7. The rest of the S&P is undervalued. Ask Warren Buffett, he'll tell you. Of course, he's retired from telling us. At the tender age of 96, I find that inspiring. I feel like a kid again. Now, let's bring this home to the economic outlook right now. We have the tariffs, and that's very disturbing. The reality is, if you ask the economists, how disturbing is this? You know, they put a bag over their head. You know, oh, geez. It is a bad thing. Economists don't like tariffs. And in a perfect world, we shouldn't have tariffs. But in a perfect world, we shouldn't have armies either. And in a perfect world, China wouldn't have a fleet 3 times the size of ours and be such a predator. But the reality is, we have to deal with the axis. So we have a high-cost foreign policy, which sucks up a lot of resources. We have to deal with Iran, North Korea, Russia, and China in different venues, in different ways. In a lot of ways, what Trump has recognized, be it clumsily, is that in order to meet these challenges, to finance our future and so forth, he's going to have to shake things up. We have a very high-cost foreign policy. I mean, German prosperity was great. It was based on mechanical engineering and the gas-powered motor, which sooner or later is going to go the way of, you know, steam to electric. Not yet. We're not ready yet, but we're getting there. And its prosperity was based on cheap natural gas from Russia, the Americans, which in turn financed their army, the Americans financing an army to protect them from the Russian army, and selling to the Chinese, who in turn took their profits and put it into a navy. We're basically telling the Europeans, I'm sorry, but allies cooperate. That's what we're telling them. And unfortunately, the policy that Trump is taking, it is what is necessary to finally get them to rearm. Now, whether this is effective or not, I don't know. Because the European social contract has been based on high taxes, but high benefits, so high that they couldn't afford a military. But then again, they had the Americans to protect them. And we're basically saying, well, no, now you have to spend some of that money on defense. And so we'll see how effectively they turn that around. Right now, they can't even recruit people to sit in the tanks they have. You know, if the Germans had the kind of armament they had at the end of the Cold War, they'd have them lined up on the border of Poland with Russia, but there'd be nobody in them. There would be artificial intelligence programs in them. And I don't think you can run an army on an agents. Just don't think it'll work. So that we have to ask ourselves, where are the Germans going to get the soldiers from? But more than that, where are they going to get the money from to buy the tanks? They're not cutting social spending. They can't raise taxes anymore. They want to tax Microsoft and Facebook with a digital services tax, and Trump is pushing back against that, so they're going to borrow the money. Well, they're going to have a lot of trouble doing that because they're not like us. They don't print the world's money. So they can't borrow in an indefinite amount. But everything's going to be financed by borrowing over there. And I don't think that's going to work out very well for them. They're going to have to make guns and butter choices, and they need to be told they need to make those choices. And in some ways, we're forcing them to make those choices by saying, why should we be the essential nation in the Ukraine when the Russians are threatening you and you are theoretically as rich as us and you keep telling us you're more civilized? You know, one of the things I love Prime Minister Carney. The Canadian polity is the crystallization of European supremacy. I spent 20 years in Canadian studies. I was director of Canadian studies at the University of Maine. I was involved intimately in the creation of the Canada-U.S. Free Trade Agreement by directing something called the Canadian-American Committee in Washington. I championed the agreement, and all through it, I kept hearing about how they are a gentle kingdom up there and more civilized than we rough-hewed Americans. So with Trump's tariff, he gives Mr. Carney an opportunity to feel superior. He seems to forget that, you know, about 20 years ago, they were trying to shut out American investment with the Foreign Investment Review Agency. They had a national energy policy which was going to cut off oil exports to the United States, you know, and they complained that we're not a reliable partner. But we go through these cycles with the Canadians. Sometimes they're bad neighbors, and sometimes we're good neighbors. And to paper it all over, we tell our children it's 100 years of uninterrupted friendship, peace, and harmony. It has never been, just never been. We've been through, everything old is new again. It just happens all over again. Now, these tariffs are terribly disconcerting, but they're only 20% on 11% of the U.S. economy. They're 2.2%, which means it's basically the equivalent of a 2.2% excise tax or sales tax. Now, when you do that, it's a tax. Now, since time immemorial, even before I was born, on the third tablet that Moses brought down, you know, from the Mel Brooks movie, I give you this 10 commandments. One of those lost commandments was that taxes always raise prices, so don't tax. They always raise prices. When was the last time we had a Republican tell us that taxes don't raise prices? They do. These are going to raise prices. You can't get around that. It's already happening for things like cribs, strollers, toys, it's already happening. The surge in imports that you read about was largely pharmaceutical products. Our wholesalers aren't all that stocked up. About 2 or 3 months from now, you are going to feel it. And so the CPI, which was starting to calm down, inflation was calming down, is going to go the other way. And Mr. Trump has got a sequencing problem. That tax is going to slow the U.S. economy at the same time as it creates inflation. You just can't get around that. You can't get around that. At the same time as he's trying to restrain the supply of labor by deporting people. You can't get around that constrains things. So have less supply, higher prices, you're going to have about a 50% chance of a recession. Now, you don't have to have that happen if you give people back the money you take from them in the excise tax with an income tax cut. But the problem is he's already raised the excise tax and the income tax cut is yet to arrive. That's his basic problem. It takes time for Congress, as you heard from the governor, to get things done. The net effect of this basically is who has disposable income is going to change. We're all going to pay the tariff, but the people who make a living on tips, the people who work overtime, old folks on Social Security below a certain income level, these will all be means tested. We'll get a tax break, and then they will spend more money. So the disposable income will get moved around on a macroeconomic basis. It'll be a wash. And so in 2026, we should be experiencing the kind of optimism we did at the beginning of this year. Now, on the structure of your industries, I can't tell you how it's going to affect you because I don't know where he's going to land with all these trade agreements he's trying to negotiate. I will tell you this, being a veteran of trade negotiations, having been chief economist at the United States International Trade Commission, it takes time to negotiate these things. These trade agreements are as thick as telephone books, and they make writing tax legislation look like a third-grade spelling bee. They're extraordinarily complex and difficult to do, but they can be done, but they can't be done in 90 days. We'll probably get agreements that bring tariffs down somewhat in some places, but not in others, and we'll work towards final agreements, but we've been through these kinds of negotiations before with the Europeans, with the Brits, and in Southeast Asia through the TPP. At times, the other side has pulled out at the last minute, and at times, we have pulled out. Those agreements are on the shelf. They can be pulled down, brought up to date, signed, and finally ratified. But people are going to have to accept some things. For example, we will probably have to do something about our sugar price supports. The Europeans will have to accept more American pharmaceuticals. They'll have to get their eyes off of the digital industries as something they can tax. You know, it's kind of like the digital industries tax in Europe is kind of like the tax we put on hotels and rental cars and so forth. The idea is to get out-of-towners to pay your taxes. I mean, the Europeans have run out of Europeans to tax. So they've now decided that in addition to us providing for their defense, the essential nation, we should also pay their taxes for them too. Maybe we should do their dying for them. I don't know. But I don't plan on dying, so that, well, that's it. I have an older brother who told me not everybody does everything that everybody else does. So I said, well, what are you not going to do, John? He says, well, I'm not going to die. Now, I'm not saying I'm not going to die, but I've never done anything before John has done it. He's always done everything first. He got married first. He graduated college first, although not much firster than me. He took a long time. He was big. He was a football player. I was smart and bookish. In any case, I want to leave you with some thoughts about growth, the mother's milk of progress. As I said to you, AI should increase productivity of growth a full percentage point a year. Other things equal, growth goes up a percentage point. We have some estimates of what these taxes will cost us in terms of lost productivity. It's about 0.2% for growth a year. 6% of GDP over 30 years is what it comes down to. So that means on net, we should grow about 0.8% faster than we thought we would, which is about 3%. It's about 3%. Now, from 1969 to 1998, GDP grew at 3%. Inflation was about 4%. The U.S. Treasury rate was 7.4% on average. And the S&P 500 went up 10.5% a year. So my message is, yes, we're going to continue to grow. We're going to feel better next year than we did this year, and even better in 2027. And put your stock in America, because the history is replete with fools who have sold us short, who have discounted our prospects. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. That concludes the 2025 RV Industry Power Breakfast. A couple final words. Please exercise patience in making your way out of here. We have 1,300 people here today. Not everyone can be the first one out of the parking lot. Second, a reminder, the sponsors of the event, please come to the stage for a photo. Again, thank you all for coming. Thank you to our sponsors, and let's be careful out there.